You can stop it once you step this way. Oh my.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We are the Youngs, and we match.
We match.
Kind of.
We match all the time, actually. Not all the
That's
time,
not true.
but we match a lot of the time. Some
your fault.
intentionally, some unintentionally. Well, I buy your clothes.
Well, do you do that on purpose?
Yes, because you wouldn't buy any clothes if that was the case.
I'd wear it till I need to buy new clothes. Not a necessity.
Oh, jeez. What was it? How did this come
up? You do it on
up?
purpose to match.
How did this? I don't know. I do not.
Okay, good. Because that would be weird.
Yeah, no, I do not do that. What was I talking about?
Stop tapping the mic.
I think it was Chloe. She was talking about how she bought like a shirt for her husband, and I was like, and he didn't know about, like, he was like, I don't know if I like it or not. And I was telling her about like how sometimes I ask you your opinion, but most of the time I will just buy you clothes, and then when it comes in, you'll be like, yes or no. But I'm never like, you have to wear this. Like,
How many of those things that you buy me, though, go unworn?
there are like 2 things that I can think of. And one of them is because they weren't tight enough in the arms.
I have a weird torso and body.
I know. But
I know. So it's got to be very intentional.
I know that. I didn't think that the arms were going to be so like big. But
if you go down a size, it's going to be too short.
Right. I understand.
Because I have weird torso.
But anyway,
Don't
what I was saying.
body shame me.
I'm not. Oh my God, I'm not. But what I was saying is like, in that conversation, I was like, oh yeah, I buy like all of Alex's clothes. What is wrong with me? And she's like, oh, that's why he's like always so well dressed. And I'm like, yes.
Basically.
Yes.
You know, I give you credit.
I know you do.
And then you get like, don't say that. Yeah, thanks to Veronica. And you're like,
I've just let it happen now because it's true.
Right.
Except on the times where I'm like, hey, this looks good, and you like don't agree with me. And I'm like, can you just trust me? And you are like, no.
Because I have to be comfortable too.
Well, I know that. Your comfortability matters.
I could be comfortable in jeans and a t-shirt or hoodie.
I know, but that's
100% of the time.
That's what you're in right now. But sometimes
you can only see my top half.
That's not acceptable. He's wearing jeans and Adidas that really need to be pitched because
these are just going to become my gym shoes.
They're white and they're
dirty.
Very dirty.
But they're going to become my gym shoes.
I've cleaned them with bleach like multiple times, and there's no coming back from where they're at.
They're going to become gym shoes.
You need a different pair of tennies.
I know.
So here's an example. Like, I want to get you some good like New Balances, but like you will not wear New Balances because you're like, that's a dad shoe, and I'm like, that's what's in though.
The New Balances
like, that's what's in though.
Are more okay. It's the like Air Force Ones and
Air Force Ones are
stuff
also
like that.
in.
They look super clunky and weird on my feet.
No, they do not.
They do because
you
I have
think that.
I have short legs and a long torso.
You think that they look bad.
When I have big clunky shoes like that, it takes away from my short legs and makes my legs look shorter, and then it doesn't work. You're body shaming me.
I am not. You just don't trust my opinion on certain things. And that's what's kind of frustrating is like every time we're doing something and you need an outfit, like you cannot do it without me. Like you get frustrated.
Not always.
Oh gosh.
Not always.
You get frustrated if I don't give you my opinion, but then sometimes when I give you my opinion, you don't like what I'm saying.
I gotta be comfortable, and I'm
not. This is a marriage counseling podcast. Anyway.
What are we doing? What are we doing today?
So, ironically enough, we are doing a Q&A. We have a few questions that we're going to talk about today that were anonymously given to us. And the first one is, how do you balance personal time and prioritizing your marriage when you also work together and have busy seasons?
Why are you laughing like that is any way related to what we were just talking about? It's not. at all.
It's just funny because it's about marriage.
But it's not any way related to what we were just talking
No,
about.
but it's loosely related.
I don't even think it's the fact that
it's
we're married
loose.
is the only thing that is connecting those two comments.
Maybe. I don't know. So how do you balance personal time and prioritizing your marriage when you also work together and have busy seasons?
We talk about this all the time. We get asked this all the time. And the answer pretty much never changes.
How do you balance personal time?
You just intentionally say, hey, we're going to have dinner tonight, or
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm done working for tonight. You should be done too, if I can be done. Because
So recently, I feel like
the last week or so.
our relationship is unique. Very unique.
Elaborate.
In a lot of different ways. It's very unique. I think that this year we'll be married for 9 years. Next year, 10, obviously. But I think even still, like, we are still learning what works for us. And it's also changing as our lives change and as we go through different seasons of life. And I think in the majority of our marriage, date nights pretty much consisted of going to dinner together. And that was pretty much it. Maybe like dinner, a movie.
That's because we like dinner.
Yeah,
we like food.
we like food. So it really didn't go any further than like picking a dope place to eat and like enjoying our time together doing that. But recently, and this is where this answer kind of comes in on this question, we had the idea to do, well, I had the idea.
TikTok had the idea.
I had the idea based off of a trend on TikTok. It's the
Ghost painting.
The ghost painting, and like thrifting paintings and then painting your little ghosty scene on it. And I'm like, I want to do this. And we don't typically do date nights like that. They're, like I said, typically like food-based date nights. And so we don't have to plan super far in advance because we know we have to
let's go to dinner tonight.
We know we have to eat dinner every day. So tonight's going to be a date night, or, tomorrow will be. So it's like, we don't have to plan for that. But for this, we did have to plan because I was like, hey, what if we did this? And you're like, oh, that would be fun. And I'm like, okay, well, let's make a whole like date night out of it. And we can go to the thrift stores together, and like the whole process will just be our date night.
I think we cooked a frozen pizza that night.
Yeah, no, we ordered pizza.
Oh, that's right.
We ordered pizza. But we had to plan for that. Like, we planned like a month out for that.
No, it was like a couple weeks.
It was several weeks out.
It was a couple weeks. It was definitely not a month out.
Okay, well, it was several weeks out. Like, we had to pick a day. So really, it's just being intentional. If you know you guys want to like do something, or if
especially in busy season.
Yeah, I mean, right now we are so busy.
I think this week I worked until about 11 p.m.
Yeah.
3 nights.
I typically have a hard stop at 5. I've been very intentional about that this year. And that was one of my goals this year. Was part of that quote unquote work-life balance that doesn't really exist. I'm trying to implement some sort of that into my life. And having a hard stop at 5 o'clock has been that for me. And I've pretty much stuck to it like almost all year. Mm-hmm. But I will say that the last few weeks, I've been working till like 7, 8 o'clock.
Do you think it's easier to do because I'm working till like 11?
It is definitely easier, but because I have gotten into the routine of having that hard stop at 5, it's been harder in general to keep going. But I
don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I've had so much to edit that it just has to happen.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Deadlines are all stacked up, but I'm also trying to get ahead before we go out of town this coming week, because I don't want to think about work that I have to do while I'm on it. Like, this is a true vacation, and I want to go and not think about work. And if I have things that are pressing that I'm going to have to get home and immediately work on, because I'm not taking it with me.
Enjoy your time.
I'm not going to be able to, because it's just going to be festering in my brain.
So that's just part of being intentional. Like, we've planned this vacation, we've planned this time. So we're pushing it and we're hustling right now. So we can truly check out and spend quality time with each other and not just be in each other's presence. We want to spend quality time with each other. I mean, I had so much fun with our date night with the ghosty thing. That was,
it's making me want to order pizza again tonight.
oh my God. That was really fun. And like when I was saying, like, we are still learning more things about us as a couple with seasons of life, I think we need to do more stuff like that. And be more intentional in that way of like planning ahead for date nights, whereas just like planning a dinner or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. But I also still want to go to dinner, but it's cheaper to not go to dinner. This is a cheaper date night than going to dinner.
Oh yeah. That was a pretty cheap date night. So that's kind of how we balance that.
At the end of the day, I think balance, quote unquote, when you work with your spouse and run a business with your spouse doesn't truly exist.
Yeah.
It's just about being intentional with the things you need to do and want to do. So
and being intentional with your time.
So like if you're saying I'm going to work these 3 days and catch up, you need to be intentional about the work that you get done those 3 days.
Yeah.
Because things might happen that it pushes it out another day and you have to work one more day. Or if you're not intentional, it's going to push itself out and then you lose the time that you potentially were planning for, just like date night or whatever.
Right.
It's not balance. It's just being intentional about the time that you need to make when you need to make it.
Yeah. All about planning. And if you're like, well, how do I be intentional? It's honest, replace intentional with planning.
Put it in your calendar.
Just plan it out. Have a conversation. Hey, this date's going to be a date night. What are we going to do on this date? And then for every day leading up to that, just set yourself up for success. That way you can truly check out and spend quality time with your partner. Fact.
Okay, what's the next question?
Okay. So I will read this one. It says, any advice for when the bride and groom's wedding party are difficult? If they're mean and don't want to do anything you ask them to do. I had a wedding party that threw a fit every time and didn't understand anything I was saying.
Well, in this specific instance, what I would do is I would kind of not address the situation. I would, what's what I'm looking for? Assess the situation.
Yeah, assess.
And figure out, without directly saying it, how much footage and photos the couple wants of the entire bridal party.
Yeah.
So that if it's possible, we knock that out as quick as we can, make it super efficient, and just minimize the amount of time that the whole group is there if they're part of the issue with being attentive and actually listening to what you have to do. But I do think that because the last few weddings we've had wedding party members, because groomsmen say it too, that have specifically said, wow, y'all are efficient.
Yeah. So I think that there's multiple things that I want to touch on with this. We are a huge proponent to communication, and we've talked about this multiple times across all platforms that we have, including this podcast, that almost any uncomfortable situation can be cured with communication. And having preemptive communication. So what we always do in some way, I'm not saying that there's like a formality that we have, but it always comes up in conversation at some point of the planning process with our couples. We always ask how big the wedding party is. And then asking that question kind of naturally leads into a conversation of, oh, what's your wedding party like? And they will most often like just be honest, like, oh, they're super fun, a little rowdy, blah, blah. And that gives us the ability to understand and know what to expect. But then also when it's coming down to timeline and we're having that conversation about timeline, if we're really short on, bridal party time, that communication, when you're talking about the timeline, just you and your client before the wedding day, you instill on your client, okay, I'm not going to be on the party bus. So it's firstly your responsibility to tell your bridal party that we have a very specific time for photos. So pay attention to the photographer, that sort of thing. but also like you can't put all that responsibility on the couple. So like we've also gone into wedding days knowing that this could be an issue. So before they get off the bus or whatever the case, I'll go up on the bus. I have everyone in this small space and I'm like, guys, we only have 40 minutes to get all these photos. I want to make sure you have a good time and you're done quickly. So as long as you pay attention to me for the next 30 minutes, I promise you can get back to drinking, you can get back to having fun, whatever the case might be. Just please give me your undivided attention for the next 30, 45 minutes, whatever the case might be. And we'll be Gucci. We'll be good. And almost always that's totally fine. You know, there are obviously some days where some bridal parties are more difficult than others. Yep. Like in this question. And again, like if that's something that you weren't able to do, and you have a bridal party that's kind of, I guess in this circumstance, being mean or rude, you kind of just have to take the responsibility as the authority figure in that moment and
remind them that the day is about the couple.
Yeah. And you know what that like looks like. I'm trying to put myself in the position of this person asking this question. Like what this looks like would be you as the photographer maybe telling your team, hey, wait 1 second, I need to address the bridal party. And you physically walk up to the entire bridal party and you're vulnerable, but you're kind and you're also direct. And you're just like, hey guys, I have a job to do. I really want to make sure that you are having a good time. We want to make sure the couple is getting what they paid for. So like, can you please just like listen to me for like the next 5 minutes? And I promise I'll be like out of your hair. And you are honest and then you move on. You know, there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. And if it gets worse,
like after that, like we've had times where the groomsmen just would not listen, regardless of how many times we've addressed it and everything like that. So, yeah. I mean, I put on my Enneagram 8 hat and just like, all right, guys, y'all are acting like fifth graders because they're not listening. So we're going to do a single file line right here. If you're in front of the line, go get your individual shot and then you're done. And then we're just going to keep doing that. And then that made them click because they're like, oh, he called us fifth graders.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't always have to be that way, and you shouldn't do that if it's not going to come across like I knew that this client was not going to be offended. Yeah. And because they're just having a good time, but like we've asked several times and we know they heard us.
You actually pose it in a different way. You do it in more of like a easier, like lighthearted situation. Joke. You're like, hey, remember in fifth grade when you would have a single file line? Let's do that. So it's more like that. Like you're not actually calling them fifth graders, but but I am, and insinuating the fact that they're acting like children. Yeah. So it's kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of have to read the people in front of you. And I mean, you have a job to do. The couple has hired you to do that job. And sometimes you have to be direct, but always 100% of the time be kind. I know some photographers that quite literally yell and scream to the bridal party and they have no sincerity in their tone, and that gives me major ick. I'm thinking of one specifically, and I'm not going to name drop, of course, but like it gives me major ick. Like it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Have you like experienced it?
Yeah.
Jeez.
They're just like very like monotone, direct with telling them what to do. I always try to be lighthearted, because you want to set a good impression. These are people who could hire you for your wedding. Do you
remember you
want to make sure that they have a good time too.
The streamer thing that we did with, was it Brittany and Patrick's wedding? Like everybody was drunk. It was the end of the night. And we had these streamers that, you know, it's not like Sparkler where you light them and you have a few seconds to get what you need. You have to pop these at the right time. You have to put a little force behind it. Yeah. And we wanted to get the shot look good. Yeah. And nobody was listening.
Yeah, I remember this. And we were there to the very end. Yeah. And there was a lot of people still. That wedding was hopping. But they were not listening, and so I had to be very direct, but again, I'm always like kind. And I've talked about this on our YouTube channel before about, it's specifically about family formals, but your tone of voice says everything about what you're saying, more so than what you're actually saying. Like the way that you say it is so important. So even if you're like shouting. You can shout nicely. I know that sounds crazy, but you can. And so when you're trying to get attention from a group of people, your tone of voice is so important. And during that wedding specifically, I was like, guys, I know you guys are having a good time, but like, you have to listen to us. We want people to be safe, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, a random guest came over to me and they were like, I have never seen someone be so direct but nice at the same time. And I was like, that's the best compliment I think I've ever gotten. Because sometimes you just gotta, you have to be the boss. Like sometimes you are. And you can always do it with kindness. So.
And at the end of the day, I think this is the last thought I have on this topic is the couple hired you, the wedding party did not.
Yeah.
So the wedding party has different intention than the couple does.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you remind the wedding party why you are actually there.
Yeah.
And that it's not about you wanting these photos. It's about the couple wanting these photos.
Yeah. And I think, if you have the chance to talk to the bridal party before you actually start photos, like whether it's on the bus or whatever, I think letting the bridal party know that you are aware that they don't necessarily want to be doing this and they want to have a good time puts them at ease, because then they're like, okay, this girl is not going to take up an hour of our quote unquote free time to hang out with people, because more often than not, like our couples are like, the bus is like what we're looking forward to, just hanging out with our friends. Like there's no pressure there. And I 100% get that. And, bridal party photos are just, they're something that has to happen. And so when the bridal party knows that that they just want to have a good time, I think that kind of relaxes them, and they aren't in their head like, oh God, we're going to be taking photos for hours. Like that's not what we're going to be doing. We're going to get them done and they're going to be quick. So
yep.
Hopefully that answered that question.
Probably only have enough for like maybe 2 more questions.
Okay. This is more of a technical one, but what are the presets it just says presets and how to find your style and how to match photo and video deliverables.
So basically, how do we make everything look cohesive and what
like,
do we use?
How do you find like your style? So,
yeah.
Well, let's start there.
So how do you find your style?
Yeah. My photography style started way different than what it is now. I think I can't really pinpoint a certain moment where it shifted. I think that it was like a gradual change. But I would say it came more through who I was inspired by. That's not to be confused with copying. When I started my career, I didn't know who Jose Villa was. I didn't know like who.
Was he even that big when you started?
Alex, he's been big forever. Like,
I mean, yeah, but like, when did he like show up? Like, wow, Jose Villa.
I mean, I don't know.
Because I feel like you'd have known about it sooner.
Well, I mean, our business started in 2015. Like, social media was definitely a thing, but it wasn't like what it is now.
As prominent as it is, yeah.
So I think that was part of it. And I didn't pay, like, I didn't know, I was new. I didn't look for things like that. I wasn't looking for people to look up to or anything. I didn't know. So I just kind of started with whatever I thought looked good. And then the more that I learned and the more inspiration that I found, I started to lean into a certain style. And it's more about like what inspired me personally. And it's not like I saw a photography style and I'm like, I need to replicate that. It's that in like, I can envision myself capturing moments like this and getting excited about it and things like that. So I think as far as the editing goes, I have gone through so many preset packs. Like I've spent a lot of money on preset packs, and
yep.
I think that it's truly just like trial and error.
I mean, I spent a lot on LUTs too.
Yeah, which is equivalent to a preset.
The video version of a preset.
I think it's truly just trial and error, and then once you start to understand and know like who your target audience is, who your clients are, and what they like and what they're looking for, then you kind of start to narrow it down based off of the type of people that you're trying to book. Some people like a more darker romantic style photo. Some people gravitate to more of like a film style aesthetic. But I think it just depends on like who your client is and then what you personally resonate with. A photo can make you feel a certain way, and I think that the color grading and everything like that has a lot to do with it. So I think whatever you personally resonate with, kind of lean into that, and then hopefully it coincides with who your audience is and who your client is. I personally, I'll put it out there, I use good light presets. I think they are fantastic, and I have a lot of them. There's a lot of different packs, and I have a lot of them, but I have taken them and I make my own personal tweaks to them. So they're a baseline, and then I add my own little twist on them to kind of add my personal touch. But a lot of that also comes through with my like photography technique and my style of shooting. So yeah, and then for you, we use Illume LUTs.
Yes. And that's basically, I mean, that's after trying all kinds of stuff. I've used Lutify.
Even before that, as far as like matching photo to video, we've been through it because I have always been a Canon girl, but you've had Blackmagic, we've had Sony, we haven't had Sony. I'll never go to Sony. We've had people who have shot Sony.
I'll never go to Sony.
And we've had Panasonic, Blackmagic, and then now, and I will say during those periods of time,
it was harder.
It was hard to match our coloring from photo and video. But now we are strictly Canon with the what are
you trying to say?
I am like losing my words. With the exception to Jaron being a Sony guy.
Except for like that hot second where he didn't actually end up shooting a wedding, but he sold a Sony, bought a Canon, then sold a Canon, rebought a Sony.
Yeah, so we shoot all Canon, which makes the color grading across the board easier.
And also in that same time frame, I taught Veronica how to use the color correction tools in Premiere. Mm-hmm. So now she colors the films because by the time the films are due, she's already finished the galleries photo-wise. So she knows what they look like and can match them to what she edited the photos to. So not only the same cameras and the same color sciences that we're using, she's also editing the color on both. Yeah. So that the product in the end is cohesive across the board. Yeah. As far as the content itself, we're shooting together. So she's capturing the same photos as I am video. So just organically, because we work together all the time, that's just going to naturally happen. I mean,
I've even I don't have to do this too often, but there have been a couple times. I've pulled up like the gallery and like had it on one screen and then I'm color grading the film and kind of making sure that they match. And photo and video, when you're doing that, there's going to be something that's like not exactly the same because it's just a different format. But getting it as close as possible, I think, is important. And our tip for that is shoot with the same gear and then look for presets and LUTs that already look similar. Like I said, we use Illume and we love it.
I think as far as, I was going to say this, the style goes, you talked about your photo style. Video style, for me, I came from a corporate background, so I have a completely different outlook than a lot of newer videographers in the wedding industry when I came into weddings. But I saw wedding videography and I was just like, these are boring slow motion music videos, basically. And I was able to work with that, but it took me giving myself permission to be different to actually start trying new things. And trying new things and seeing what works and what doesn't work and what you like and what you resonate with, that is the first step. Yeah. Then B is finding inspiration. And I started reaching out and I found Henry Martin's, for example.
He was like your main inspiration for a while.
I saw a film or a teaser he did and I'm like, wow, this is unlike anything I've ever seen. And this is what I like. This is what I would, this is more like the corporate stuff I used to do. I'm like, this is like a commercial. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe it's okay to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
So then I started leaning more into my corporate background and implementing that into how I do my teasers, and then also how we tell a story in the corporate world. That's literally what we're doing for video. So now I've landed on this two-sided coin of teasers are very commercial driven as far as like it's a hype reel and that gets you excited about the end product, which is your film. And the film is a story.
Yeah.
So it's like a movie. It's like a movie trailer and then the movie.
Yeah.
And so it just give yourself permission to be different and try something new and just straight up try it.
Yeah. So that also kind of like goes into the next question on here. All it says is booking the right clients. I don't know really what this person means by that. So I'm going to answer it with what I think that they mean.
I think they mean how to
find your ideal client.
Right.
Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with your branding, your brand voice, the copy on your website, how you present yourself. If these are things that if I'm saying things that you don't know what they are, that is your problem. So brand voice is like how your brand speaks to the people that are looking at it. And that is all encompassing on colors, fonts, like aesthetic, how you scroll through your website, what your Instagram feed looks like, the copy on your website, the copy on your Instagram, on the captions, on how you present photos, on how you present videos, everything. All of that, I think, is how you find your right client. And also the marketing, and that's just another thing that kind of goes with that. Like, how are you marketing yourself online? Like, what are the ways that you're physically doing that? And really, like, even down to the Instagram caption, like, are you saying things that are like, I don't know, like, here's an example, like, are you a Gen Z and like you're saying Gen Z style things in your captions trying to get other Gen Zs to relate to what you're saying? Or are you a millennial trying to get Gen Z saying millennial things? Right. Or saying Gen Z things to get Gen Z clients. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You have to know where your clients are at. Yes. That's the first. You have to meet your client where you're at. So an example would be like the term "it's giving," right? So like me putting in like a caption saying I just did this. So I have a picture of a bride on my feed and I said, "It's giving New York Fashion Week." Now that phrase might not resonate with someone who's in their 40s, but it will resonate with someone who's 25. And I know that because that's what the 25-year-olds are saying. So I'm going to be intentional about how I pose that, Instagram caption, because those are the people that I'm trying to resonate with. I think that it all boils down to like what content you're putting out. Like there's got to be cohesiveness. Like before they do anything else, they're going to see, for the most part, your products. Yeah. If they like your photos or not, period. So find out what the clients that you want to get to are gravitating towards stylistically and lean into that. But then also, if you are wanting a client, like for example, Wild and Rome, they get a lot of like the party vibes and those like hype clients, and that's what they want. So guess what they put on social media? The hype clients. Right. The stuff of the dance floor and the bride and groom being super like hype and singing to the camera on the dance floor and just having a really good time. That's what they put out. That's what they get. Yeah. If you want somebody that is like really into like the editorial Vogue vibes, you put that out. Yeah. And that's what those people, though, you're going to get those people. Second thing is, it's the same thing of what you see is what you get. So like what you put out is what you're going to receive back. That's what you're going to attract. Yeah. You also want to put your personality out because this is a very personal business. Yeah. And I think the number one thing that I see that photo teams or photographers and videographers are lacking on social media is not showing their face. If I have to go to your Instagram and scroll too far, we're not really good at this at the moment. But what we are good at is showing up on social on stories. Yeah. So you're either showing up on stories or showing your face.
on posts or whatever to show your personality, because
that's what is going to resonate with your ideal client.
Because they will know if your personalities clash before they inquire.
Yeah.
And they won't inquire. But if you have a personality that they can resonate with,
right,
then in most cases, I would imagine that they're a client that you want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. And finding your ideal client nowadays, you know, most of our leads come from Instagram.
And I actually just saw a post about this, and a lot of them said Instagram.
So if that's your like main source of like where you want to get clients or whatever, then put your energy into showing up on Instagram and showing the types of things and shoots and photos that that you resonate with and that you want to capture for potential clients.
Or
and
even the types
I think that it will naturally come to you.
Or even like your interests outside of work. Like people want to know who they're hiring, not just what they can give them.
Yeah.
So if you can put personality and interest into it as well, that's only going to make you getting the right clients easier.
Yeah. Another like short tip is, and I do this like randomly, and I know a photographer who does this weekly. They share like weekly inspo, and it's always photos from like planners or florists or like whatever the case, that they're sharing what work and what events have like resonated with them and like what inspires them. And so
it's not their work, it's just what they like.
And so putting that out there kind of shows like the types of things that you like and that you want to photograph. So, you know, it's all about common interests, I think, and meeting your client where they're at, truly.
Yeah, mic drop. I think that was it.
Let me see if there are any more. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty much it. So
we love doing these Q&As. So
it's helpful when we don't have topics.
Keep an eye out for any other like question boxes, because we really like doing these, and we can't always get through them. But if we have a backlog of questions, we'll just we might end up setting up an email for this that you can just email anytime you have a question. We can just add it to our queue, and we can talk about it.
I wish like we could do like a take calls like back in the day. Like that'd
We're
be
not
fun.
live though.
No, we're not live. But anyway, yep. So that was good. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Once you step this way,